What is up, bros? Modz here today, and we'll be going over the Season 3 2.2 Raiment Monk set that was just totally redesigned by Blizzard. We'll be going over stat priority, Paragon point allocation, gear, alternative gear setups, and then later on in the video, there'll be a little video footage of the gameplay of me clearing a greater of 51. So with further ado, let's get into the build guide. And let's start off with Paragon points. So basically what you want to do for your core Paragon points is max out your movement speed first. You're going to want to have 25% movement speed max on your character sheet. So depending on like what you got in your gear, you're going to balance it out. So I got 12 on boots, so I want to put 13 in my movement speed. After that, we're going to put our Paragon points into max spirit. This build is extremely spirit dependent. Every single time you dash, it costs 75 spirit, and you're going to be dashing a lot. By a lot, I mean a lot. That's going to be our main source of damage. We'll be going to that more in a little bit. And then after this, most of your Paragon points will be going into dexterity, pretty much all into dexterity, unless your health is under 400k. If you have under 400k health, put your points in vitality and get it boosted up there. Now going into our offensive tab, stat priority will be as such. Basically crit chance first if you have under 40% crit chance. If you have over 40% crit chance, do crit damage first, then cooldown reduction, then crit chance, then attack speed. And then a defensive tree, it's always all resists, armor, life percent, then life regen. And your utility points, you're going to be going resource cost reduction first, area damage, life on hit, and then Wyatt Chain's all-time favorite, gold find. Gotta love that gold find. And now let's go over our skills. So the main source or our generator, it will be the crippling wave tsunami. Not only be generating spirit force, it's also going to almost permanently freeze all the enemies. So we're going to pretty much be taking almost no damage at all with this spec. Very, very limited amount of damage, that is. Second off is going to be dashing strike, blinding speed. Since we are using like a cold elementalist build, we're going to be using the dashing strike, blinding speed. Not only is it going to be our main source of damage, it also is going to, well, it's going to increase our dodge chance by 40% for 4 seconds. So overall, pretty much what we're going to have active on a character all the time is 61% dodge, just all the time, and it's going to be crazy. So dashing strike, blinding speed. For Epiphany, we're going to use Desert Shroud for the 50% damage reduction. If you're doing like lower tier greater risk, you could swap in Insight, which is just going to increase your spirit regen so you dash more, aka more damage output. Breath of Heaven and Fuse of Light, since we are going to be auto-attacking a lot to boost up our spirit, you're going to want to use Infuse of Light, accompanied with all the cooldown reduction on our gear. We'll have relatively high uptime on this, and it'll really help aid in getting that spirit that we need to push out the damage. Inner Sanctuary with Forbidden Palace, basically mobs are going to take 30% increased damage, they're going to have reduced movement speed, which will proc our Band of the Trap gem, also make it easier to kite and like run away from things so we don't die. Then in addition to that, we also get 55% reduced damage. So we got like a 50% reduced damage here, or 55% reduced damage there. And then whenever basically Inner Sanctuary is up, you're not going to use your health pot pretty much at all. If you're using your health pot, you're doing it wrong. You don't want to be using your health pot during Inner Sanctuary. If you are, well, you might have to sometime, but you're going to be in pretty bad shape. You probably want to move out as the bad stuff. And then Mantra of Salvation with Agility, 35% dodge. And then also it's going to give us 20% all resist that's going to passively be active. And then when we activate the effect, it's going to increase it to 40% all resist. We're not going to be using the activation effect that much, but every once in a while we will, depending on like the elite pack combination that we run into. Now going into passive skill tree selection, Harmony, we're going to be stacking resist on pretty much every single slot, or at least try to. It depends on like what the RNG gods are going to deliver. Sometimes they don't deliver, sometimes they do. So Harmony is going to take 40% of your single stacking elemental resist and put it through all resist. Your next skill tree is going to be STI. We want as much attack speed as possible with this build. In most situations, when we're playing this build with this flying dragon, we're going to have over 5 APS, over 5 attacks per second. It's going to be crazy. We're literally going to look like a blender when we're attacking, which is, I find it absolutely fun. And then Beacon Etarts instead of CDR dependent, 20% more cooldown reduction. And then 6 Sense reduces non-physical damage taken, since we're going to use higher tier greater risk and we're going to be taking a lot of damage. So not so much because the mobs are going to be frozen, but every once in a while we do take damage, and especially boss fights, we need the 6 Sense. Alternatively, you could use like Alacrity, what increases the attack speed of your generators by 15%, would help aids, well, more damage output, more spirit gen. Also, if you're playing hardcore, you could use near-death experience. And then last but not least, you can always use momentum for just a straight up damage boost. But we're actually getting momentum from our Hellfire amulet, and we'll go into that to later on when we go into like build diversity or like, well, our gear. Oh, actually, we'll get into it right now. So anyways, those are your passives. So now let's get into gear. Your primary or like your basically end game goal is to get a flying dragon. What you're gonna want on this flying dragon is well, high damage range roll. That's what all your damage is based off of. 2923 to 4253. That is what your dashing strike damage scales off of. So you're gonna want that to be high. You want 10% damage increase, which increases that roll that we just went over. The base damage roll gets increased by percentage damage increase. And then you're gonna want a dexterity roll, and then a life per spirit spend. Since you're spending massive amounts of spirit, you're gonna wanna regen, and that's how you're gonna be doing your regen right there. And then the nice thing about Flying Dragon, it on a chance, basically it's gonna double our attack speed with this build. It's extremely strong, and what's going to happen is when we're in greater risk, you always like quote unquote fish for like the perfect setup, but ideally what you want is like a chain alien power pylon. When you get this chain alien power pylon, which is the absolute dream, you will kill a boss with 200 billion health in under 30 seconds, and having the Flying Dragon really helps like that. Flying Dragon is almost nearly 50%, it's like pretty much 50% uptime. You will kill a boss on greater 51 in under 30 seconds, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So anyways, let's go over like the new Raiment Monk set first. I guess that's what the build is going to be based around. So your Spirit Generators, the 2-set bonus, this is totally redesigned at 2.2 Season 3. Your Spirit Generators are going to have 25% increased attack speed and a 300% increased damage. Our generators aren't going to do a huge amount of damage, but they are going to contribute a little bit. The 4-set bonus, Dashing Strike spends 75 Spirit Bar funds at charge. So essentially, if you have Spirit, you're not going to be using your charges. But as soon as you have under 75 Spirit and you cast Dash, it eats up a charge. So your end game goal is not to eat up your charges at all. So you just only want to be casting your Dashing Strike when you have Spirit. Sometimes you get like eaten to one charge, but if you eat all your charges and you don't have any charges left, you're just going to be a sitting duck and you're pretty much going to die. And then the 6-piece bonus, your Spirit Generators increase your weapon damage or Dashing Strike to 12,500% for 6 seconds. So essentially, you just want to keep this buff up all the time. And when it gets activated, I'll just go to Festering Woods real quick. When you activate this buff, so we just auto attack, boom, look. Your skill glows with this little, I don't know, it's just glowy Dashing Strike. So when it glows, that means your 12,500% damage buff is active, and you're ready to go to Pound Town, essentially. So that's a new Raiment Monk set. So let's go back into weapons. So Flying Dragon, like I said, was like the pretty much the best possible weapon you get. Alternatively, if you just started gearing out and you don't have a Flying Dragon yet, you go with an Utar's Roar. This is the crafted item, fairly easy to get. And you are going to be dual wielding, you know, fairly easy to get. Reusable parts, Arcane Dust, Failed Crystals, Forgotten Souls, Death's Breath. And then also you could use Sunkeeper, which you're looking at Sunkeeper, just, you know, high base damage range, you know, your socket, and then you want your elite damage to be high. Preferably, but RNG gods might not like you, and then it might give you like a bad roll that I have. And then last but not least, alternatively, you can use like a Zur Wrath. A Zur Wrath is really good at an additional freeze on hit, so even more CC, and then like undead enemies take some holy damage every once in a while. Yeah, I think that's what it does. Anyways, you don't really care about the secondary effect. But anyways, those are alternative weapons in place of the Flying Dragon. Now we'll be going into our bracers. Best in slot bracers for this is definitely Ancient Parathian bracers right now. And it will, well, yeah, for right now. If you're playing 2.2, you're not playing Season 3, Ancient Parathian bracers is definitely best in slot. What you're gonna be looking for stat party wise: 6% crit chance first, your cold elemental damage roll second, your dex, your vit roll, and then your stacking resist to benefit from your harmony. And what's gonna happen, each enemy is stunned within 25 yards to reduce your damage taken, which is really nice. Alternatively, if you're playing Season 3, there's going to be the new season exclusive monk item is going to be Spirit Guards. And what's going to happen when you attack with your Spirit Generator, it's going to reduce your damage taken by 30 to 40%. It rolls in ranges, so you might get a GG roll, you might get a bad roll, and that's every 3 seconds. And since you're always going to be auto attacking, that's pretty much always going to be up. So if you don't got Ancient Parathian bracers, or if you're playing Season 3, well, if you're playing Season 3, you're going to use Spirit Guards. If you're not playing Season 3 and just playing 2.2 non-seasonal, use Ancient Parathian Defenders. If you don't have Ancient Parathian Defenders, a viable alternative is your Reaper Wraps. Same exact stat priority. and it's going to help you. Well, it's going to help aid your sphere regen because health globes are going to destroy your primary resource. Next off, we're going to go into well, basically stat priority of your items. We'll go on boots. So these are the raiment boots. You're going to be using the full 6 set because we'll be using Unity SOJs. So essentially what you want on boots is your Dex Vit roll. Preferably you want life per second. Armor is good. And then your movement speed. And most importantly, make sure you get your stacking resist. You want stacking resist on every single item possible. Next, go into our legs. Dex Vit, life regen, secondary stacking resist, double socket, and make sure you put your all resist gems in there. Your damage output is going to be more than sufficient. You just want to boost up that survivability as high as possible. Now into gloves, it's pretty much the standard setup. Dex, crit chance, crit damage, cooldown reduction. It is CDR dependent. So we do want to get that cooldown reduction, but crit chance and crit chances is more important. So if you don't have the perfect gloves, you essentially just want Dex, crit chance, crit damage, like vitality. But ultimately you do want that CDR, and make sure you got that stacking resist on there. Now into shoulders, we want Dex Vit. The all resist pretty much always going to be on there. Then you want your dashing strike damage. Dashing strike damage is extremely important because, well, it's additive with each other. So you get dashing strike damage on your chest and on your shoulders, additive with each other, but it's multiplicative with your skills. So huge damage boost there. And then healing globe bonus is good. And then if you get like chill on hit as a secondary roll, that would also be nice. Now going into your chest, you want your Dex Vit roll, your dashing strike damage, triple socket, secondary stacking resist, and then like either reduction from range or melee attacks. You know, roll 6 to 7. 7% is perfect. You prefer that, but if not, that's okay. And then our helmet, Dex Vit, crit chance, socket, secondary stacking resist. If you have reduction of CC effects, that's like best in slot. But don't really worry about that. Just worry about getting your crit chance, your socket, and like your Dex roll, and then Vit comes last. Now, in terms of amulets, by far best in slot is a Hellfire amulet. You get these by doing Uber bosses. Yeah, you can pretty much get any one of these passes on there. If you get Beacon Etar, STI, Harmony, Sixth Sense, or like Momentum, any passive on there, but you just want your Dex, your crit chance, your crit damage roll, your socket, and your stacking resist. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. Just kind of like worry about your damage multipliers on your amulet. If you don't get secondary stacking resist, that's fine. Just make sure you get the proper passive. So it's going to allow you to have 5 passives instead of 4. And in this case, it just gives you a 20% damage boost, which is nice. And then alternatively, if you don't have a Hellfire amulet, you would prefer like a resist amulet like this. It doesn't have to be a Mare's Kaleidoscope or Horde Kaleidoscope Kappa. It doesn't have to be a Mare's. It could pretty much be anything at all. You can have like an Arcane Barb, any resist amulet, anything that heals you whenever you take some type of elemental damage. Best possible amulet would be a Star of Askarnath, but it's like one of the rarest items in the game. And then same stat priority, Dex, crit chance, crit damage, socket, stacking resist. If you have like a low Dex roll, like something under 700, you would roll like cold elemental damage like mine has. And then if you don't have like a stacking resist amulet, just pretty much go with any amulet that has Dex, crit chance, crit damage, and then a socket. Pretty much anything at all. Or you can use like a Blackthorns. Blackthorns are also good, and then you'll use that for like the 2-piece bonus. And then belt, string of ears, Dex Vit, life percent, life regen, stacking resist, and then your reduction from melee attacks. And then, like I said, if you don't have a Hellfire amulet, you can use either, that one, or you can use a Blackthorns, and then you'll get the Blackthorns 2-piece bonus, like 250 more vitality and increased damage done to elites. And then if you don't have a string of ears, you don't have Blackthorns, and you just want to pump out more damage, just go with the Witch and Hour. It's the only belt in the game that has crit damage on it and has attack speed, which really does boost the damage of this build because, like I said, it'll be over like 5% attacks per second. Now, for rings, we'll be using a Unity. You're going to have a Unity on yourself and on your follower, and this is just going to give you 50% damage mitigation, and make sure you have an Enchanting Favor on your follower. If you don't have an Enchanting Favor on your follower, it's just going to make you take a ton more damage. So the stat part on that is ideally crit chance, crit damage, socket with your stacking resist. If you have like, so if you get like a Unity with like a low crit damage on it, just make sure it has Dex and crit chance and a socket. You don't need crit damage. Dexterity is perfectly fine. And then for your other ring, it's going to be a Stone of Jordan. You want high elemental damage and high elite damage, your Dex roll, and then your socket. Ideally, you're like, And then you want your secondary stacking resist roll. Pretty much, we got secondary stacking resist on every single item. If you look at our resist, it's insane. We got like 2100 fire resist. So anyways, make sure you got that. If you don't want to use a Stone of Jordan or Unity, that's fine. You can use Restraint and Focus. These got buffed in the patch. So what it's going to do, it's pretty much going to be 100% damage buff. That's going to be active all the time. When you hit with the resource generating attack, it's going to increase your damage by 50% for 5 seconds. Then you hit with the resource spending attack, it's going to increase your damage again by 50%. And these buffs are like shown on your bar. So if you just like want to slap them on, you like go like some random place. We'll just go to Festering Wigs again. We'll just like auto attack. And then we got like our ring buffs. We got a ring buff now. All right, so we get the 100% damage buff via the rings. And now for gems, ideally what you want for this gem setup is Bane of the Trap, this huge damage boost, and then at ring 25 it procs itself. Also you have like Inner Sanctuary that's procking it, and then also your Crippling Wave. So you're pretty much always going to have the damage increase from your Bane of the Trap. Your next one is going to be Goguka Swiftness. In addition to the attack speed increase, it's also going to give you some major cooldown reduction. Some very, very nice cooldown reduction that should be almost active 100% time during the Rift. And then finally, last but not least, is your Pain Enhancer. You're going to be targeting like huge clumps of mobs to try to get your APS as high as possible. Also to reduce your incoming damage. The more enemies that you have stunned with like your Crippling Wave, the less damage you're going to take overall. So you just want to beat those up, right? And then it's gonna cause a bleed, and then it's gonna give you a huge attack speed bonus. We're just gonna look like a crazy madman blender. Alternatively, if you don't want to use Pain Enhancer, you go a little more survivability route. The Esoteric's Alteration, basically reduce non-physical damage taken, and then when you're below half health, pretty much increase your elemental resist by 75%. Then alternatively, what's going to scale really well with the other life regen on your gear, you're going to have life regen on boots, on your pants, and on your belt, is Molten Wildebeest's Gizzard. It's going to increase your life regen. Well, it increased per rank, and then after not taking damage for 4 seconds, you gain Absorb Shield for 200% of your total life per second. And this refreshes, even if you don't, like, basically if you're taking damage, the shield doesn't expire, it still refreshes, which is really nice. So just this very, very nice boost. Now, what I want to go into next is like a little gameplay video. During this gameplay video, keep in mind, the most ideal situation for this build is getting a channeling and a power pylon like right next to each other. So if you're going through the Great Rifts, you see a power pylon, don't grab it right away. And then a little bit later on, like a couple feet down the road, you see a channeling pylon, and you got a channeling and a power pylon now. Don't take them until the Rift Guardian. Save a couple little mobs in between that area to proc the Rift Guardian there. Ultimately, you could also like save a Elite Pack there. If you save the Elite Pack there, when the Elite Pack dies, it'll spawn 3 globes. Each one of those little purple globes give you like 1% progress to your Greater Rift. Or, well, yeah, basically to your Greater Rift progress bar. So save those there, and then proc the Guardian near the channeling and power pylon. If you're doing like, it's so crazy. If you're doing like Greater Rift 50, 51, you could literally kill the Rift Guardian. Not Stone Slinger, that has like 50% of the normal health. You can put in a channeling Rift Guardian in about 30 seconds, which is insane. So anyways, let's go into the gameplay footage now. Greater Rift 51 hype. You're not supposed to die with this build. Mistakes are made. So if you're looking at what I'm doing, I'm trying to pretty much never expend all my charges. I'm only trying to use my spirit. to deal damage. You know, just generate it with my crippling wave and then expending with my dashing strike. And then I obviously try not to like expend my charges right there. I did. That could have resulted in a death, but I got lucky. And then try not to, basically just don't overdo yourself and manage your resources. Usually I'm gonna try to like target like larger groups, so red zombies give some pretty nice rift progress, so that's why I was attacking those there. You're just gonna try to group with as many mobs as you possibly can to get those pain enhancer stacks up to get your spirit regen up high. That was a shielding pylon, so I didn't really need it for the boss, so I just grabbed it right away. Frozen affix is probably like one of the worst affixes to deal with this build, so be wary of that. Bring a igloo cloak or something. Nice warm jacket. Trying to like kite and grab those other mobs to get like STI procs, so I get that the higher attack speed bonus. Those most of the mobs around us were pretty low in health at the time. Start at that point second guessing that elite factory that's frozenated. It's not something I really want to deal with, so I just decided to move on away from that. At this point we find a nice little channeling pylon, but now that we have the channeling pylon, we're not going to take it, and half of the dream is almost fulfilled, so we're gonna like kind of like look around for a power pylon a little bit. You don't want to spend too long of a time looking for a power pylon, or like another pylon of your, of your choosing, which is ideally power. But do take a little gander. But honestly don't spend more than like a minute and a half, depending on your progression bar. this point, I'm trying to like scout out a power pylon a little bit. Still looking for that power pylon. But I don't want to waste too much time, so I'm just going to clear these out. I'm not going to go too far ahead. You're right there. I definitely messed up. I should have last hit those two mobs. That's quite a bit of experience bar. Right there, I was also trying to find like bigger packs, so I go back to the channeling pylon to proc the boss right by it. So we're almost at 99%. You know, ideally you want to get to like 99%. I was checking my progress bar. I don't want to proc the guardian in the wrong place. If you proc it like too far away, some guardians like don't like to follow you. One of the guardians that pretty much will always refuse to follow you is the binder. But if you ever get the binder, it's insanely hard to get her to kite her to your pylons. So you try to spawn the guardians as close, basically as close to the power pylon as possible, because you can always go off and grab the channeling and just dash and strike super fast over. Oh, that's actually, you know, our power pylon. Give me that power pylon. I may have been looking for a channeling pylon this entire time. No wonder I didn't find another power pylon. Right there, you kind of messed up. I overused my dashes, but I didn't cap it on spirit, so that's even better. You try not to cap it on spirit, it does happen every once in a while. There, I just got swiftly one-shotted. Ads on this boss is really nice because they help you get more pain enhancer stacks for more gen. Unfortunately, they don't last too long though. Greater Rift 51 down. We did pretty good, and we got like ring 3 monk. Probably not gonna stick for that long, but anyways, hope you guys learned something from that video. If you haven't already, well, if you haven't already, if you have an advice for me to make my videos better, leave the comments down in the info section. Also down in the info section will be a link to a Diablo fans post. That Diablo fans post will be a written guide overview and all the stats on your character. And I know a lot of people are gonna ask, like, how was I surviving Greater Rift 51? Well, pretty much without dying that much. And basically it's just an accumulation of all your toughness stats. When you have everything up and active, your toughness is going to be at around 200 million plus, and that's without like your inner sanctuary, and that's also without using your survivability gem. So anyways, like I said, but down below in the info section, link to Diablo fans guide. That'll outline everything in a written form if you don't want to watch the entire video for like all this, basically all the stat overlays or the overviews. And then if you have any other questions, leave them down in the info section, or in the info section, in the comment section. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Happy hunting in 2.2, and good luck in season 3. Modz out. Peace out, dudes. Farewell.